Ryan, brother, how's it going, my friend? It's good to see you.
You too, Ryder. Good to see you too.
We got a lot going on here, and I want to clear some things up really quickly.
Yes, I saw your post on that.
So I had Jay Widener on, and Jay said the wrong name of the individual. He said Gregory S. Sense, and it's not Gregory S. Sense. It's Paul Vallely, Colonel Paul E. Vallely. Okay, and he sits on the board of directors at TPUSA, and he's also the co-author of Psyop to Mind War with Michael Aquino. And here is his Wikipedia page here. Vallely served in the Vietnam War, retired in 1991. Vallely co-authored the book Mind War with Michael Aquino in 2004. He has served as military committee chairman of the Center of Security Policy and runs a conservative political organization, Stand Up America US. Vallely was a part of the leadership of Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA, seated on the advisory board. And I thought that was kind of weird. No, bro, he still is. Okay, so we're going to prove it right here and right now. And by the way, I was kind of corrected about this on Twitter, and it turns out that someone that has been on the show was the one that broke the story about Paul Vallely. But her name is Dana Duda. That's her tag on Twitter, is Dana Duda. But I've had her on my show before, and someone commented on Twitter and was like, why are you taking someone's work? And I was like, well, first off, I wasn't the one that said it. Jay Widener said it. I put it into a clip. The discussion was live. Mistakes get made, but here we are. But it was Dana Duda on Twitter that found this out. I just want to clear that up really quickly. But advisory council, here we go. We're scrolling down. Can you see this on the screen, Ryan? Oh, no, it's not up yet. Oh, here it is.
No, I cannot see it yet. There it is.
Turning Point USA. This is the official website. Here's the board of directors. Here's the advisory council. If you scroll down here a little bit, it'll take you aside. Right here. Boom. Right there. Who is that? Who is that, Ryan?
That's your man.
That's the man. That's Paul Vallely. Okay, now in this description here, in his bio, it doesn't say that he, of course, they want to admit that that he didn't co-author the book with known Satanist Michael Aquino on psychological operations. You know, they don't put
Yes,
that
Aquino.
it's there.
Yeah, Aquino was a specialist in psychological warfare, kind of like a Richard Doty type individual.
For the military. Yeah.
Yep. And, Aquino actually would have been 10, 11 years ago, reached out to me for my show and said that he wanted to come on my show. This was the real Michael Aquino. I checked and I was kind of taken back by it because I thought my show with its occult angle, why would Michael Aquino reach out to me to come on my show? So I kind of ignored him. Well, I didn't kind of, I completely ignored him. I didn't respond back to it. I kind of wish now that I did, but I don't like to get involved with people like that. And the fact that Michael Aquino has any indirect, or I guess you could call that a direct connection, tells me that the layers of this that continue to get peeled back with these so-called grassroots movements. Once again, it proves that it's not so grassroots. There's an organized power behind the so-called independent nature of these types of groups. And of course, where does all of it bring us? With the religious zealotry involved, it brings us to holy war, religious war, and it brings us, I don't think it was a real letter per se. I mean, it's a letter, the Albert Pike letter about World War III, but it brings us to that scenario where the nihilists and the Luciferians, or the Aquinos, if you will, where their religion becomes dominant and all the other faiths are annihilated, at least conceptually. That's kind of the idea. So I saw that you had posted that, and I feel like I should be surprised by it, but I'm not surprised by that stuff anymore, Ryder. It seems par for the course everywhere you look.
Well, people were trying to roast me about it and saying that it wasn't Gregory Essence, that he didn't co-author anything with Michael Aquino, which isn't true. He did. Well, he might have. I think he wrote the foreword to Mind War, two of the other versions that was released later on. So, I mean, that technically makes you a co-author. But I wasn't the one. But this whole thing went viral, dude. It got millions of views. It blew up on Facebook. If you typed in Gregory S. Sense on Google right now, my video is going to pop up. That's how big it blew up. And I didn't realize that Jay got the name of the guy wrong. Okay. And it's okay to make mistakes. Okay, people make mistakes all the time. It's just you got to try and go back, and if you did something wrong, you got to try and go back and admit that you did
Correct
something
yourself.
wrong and correct yourself. And that's exactly what I did. I made a pinned comment on every one of the videos on Instagram, Facebook. I mean, this thing is influencing Google results, dude. Like, it's really wild. But I went back and I went to all the videos that I posted everywhere, and I put a pinned comment on there, and I was like, hey, Jay got the name of the guy wrong. It is a guy that co-wrote Mind War, Psyop the Mind War with Michael Aquino. It's just not the guy that he said that it is. And we just proved right there that it's Paul Vallely, okay, that sits on the board of directors at TPUSA. He's an advisory council member of TPUSA, and he co-wrote in 2004 with Michael Aquino the book Psyop to Mind War. It's a book on psychological manipulation and how it works by the military. And that became the blueprint of pretty much how psychological operations run and how they work. So yeah, it's I think when people get to that point, because I could have just let it run. You know what I mean? I could have just been like, hey, whatever, I don't care, and not put out any kind of even attempt to do a correction on it. But I was like, I don't feel good about that, you know, even though I wasn't the person that said it, even though I'm not the originator of the person that found this out. Again, that was Dana Duda on Twitter, okay, that started the found this. She was the first person, to my knowledge, that found it. And even though I wasn't the person that did all of that, I still felt that it still didn't feel right with me. So I was like, because you got to have integrity when it comes to this stuff. Like, you just can't be throwing out a bunch of stuff that isn't true, and then you find out that it's not true, and then you don't go back and try and correct it, right? I was like, well, I'm just going to do this for my own peace, even though I really didn't have to. I needed to because I didn't feel right about it. So it's settled now. There's a pinned comment on YouTube underneath the video. There's a pinned comment on all the Facebook postings. There's a pinned comment on Instagram. But one more time, just to clear it up, it's not Gregory S. Sins. It's Paul E. Vallely. Same concept, same thing. Jay just got the name of the person wrong. And that's not to, when you're working from memory, Ryan, you know how this stuff goes. You get things mixed up. Sometimes you don't remember things. And that's not really a fault on anybody. When you're not reading from a script, you can jumble up your words. You can get things wrong. Okay, so just wanted to clear that up with everyone. What do you think about this ICE shooting? Have you looked into any of that? It's really recent and really new.
No, I haven't. I mean, looked into it in regard to reading a lot about it. No. Do I know what it is? Yes. And I can tell you my personal opinion is I really just don't care really anymore about any of this stuff. Not that I don't care about the idea that's being debated about someone being shot. Is it right? Is it wrong? There's a time and place to discuss and debate that. Maybe there's a time and place for that nationally, but probably more so locally. I guess if we're talking about federal agents, maybe it's a federal thing. It's something that could be discussed. But I feel like with so many other things, we have far bigger problems. Like 1,600 people die a day from reversible, treatable, curable, doesn't need to exist heart disease. 1,600, I think the number actually grew. It might be up to 1,800 to 2,000 now a day. That's a pandemic. That's a disaster every single day. Preventable, treatable, curable. There's no protest in the street over that. There's no concern for that loss of human life. As a matter of fact, not to make this a political thing, I don't consider this political, but just to give you an idea of what we're dealing with, I listened to Benjamin Netanyahu say, and we've heard other members of the Israeli government say this too in the past, that the lives of Israelis are worth more than the lives of Americans. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes, I did.
What happened on October 7th when over 1,000 people were massacred in one fell swoop? That's equivalent to about 40,000 Americans massacred.
And that's a pretty universal thing. It's not just Israelis. It's universal. Like Christians tend to, not exclusively, but tend to think their lives are more important than Muslims. I'm sure that there's a lot of Muslims who think that their lives are more important than Christians. A lot of Americans, I know this as a criticism I get sometimes on my show, that a lot of Americans think that their lives are more important than the lives of anybody else, with the exception maybe of Israelis, where I guess they can see that they're more important than American lives are. Plus, America spans more than just the States. I mean, if you're in Central or South America, you're technically American, and I guess those lives don't matter as much. And I'm sure that the feeling is mutual across borders, that others feel that, they're superior, or if not superior, just that their lives matter more. This is the kind of thing that gets to me, especially with the 1,600 to 2,000 people that die a day from preventable, reversible, curable, doesn't need to exist heart disease, on top of other things like lung problems from smoking and whatnot, is that we don't really value human life across the board equally. It's kind of selective. So if one person gets shot, this is what makes me upset. And my real true opinion on that story is that when somebody gets shot, the only reason there's people protesting is because of politics. They're not protesting because of the loss of life, or it was a tragedy. Maybe there's 5 people out there doing that, or maybe the family's doing that. But I feel like most of it's just politics.
It seems like another type of George Floyd type of thing that they're trying to get everyone riled up about. Do you remember the ICE protests in LA last year?
Of course, yeah.
That happened, and it seems like that's where it's all kind of culminating to, is they want to get everybody in an uproar about like ICE and deportation and all of that. I mean, I've seen somebody today wearing FU ICE shirt. I didn't know if he was talking about methamphetamine or the government agency ICE.
Yeah, it's funny how those things, like the T-shirts and the signs and the slogans, just like with every other protest, they all appear overnight around the whole country, as if you could ever get even 5 people together to play basketball after school, and yet we can get these things organized literally overnight. And that was even before social media. This stuff, when feminism as a movement first started to blossom in the United States, the original founders of feminism were, two of them were actresses. They were literally street performers. And that's what they did. They would go on the streets and they would perform, and they'd make this big production. And that's how they convinced people that this was a righteous movement. Not exclusively, but in part, that's part of the history. And that's what a lot of this is. It's like theater kids going out and live action role playing revolution. Although I think a lot of the motivation behind, a lot of the money behind this stuff is real revolution. It's color revolution. It's red guards. It's Mal's guards, etc. But just my thought, and this is across the board, as I said, for pretty much any issue, is that we don't value human life equally. I mean, I will say I don't know if you'd agree with me, but I would say that if we're starting as a default, like all people are equal, but if you're a rapist and a murderer who keeps raping and murdering people, your life now has less value as far as I'm concerned. And as a society, as a functioning society, usually those kinds of people that do those types of things, they are usually either executed by the state or they're locked away for good. And their lives do mean less, not because they're a certain color or a certain race or nationality or religion. It's because you raped and murdered people. And that's the idea. And there are certainly some cultures that, again, if we're looking at it from a default, let's learn about everything. But there are some cultures that are genuinely less advanced and less developed than others. And it's not even necessarily a matter of like, oh, you're better. It's just a matter of some are more advanced and some are more advanced, some are less advanced in one way or another. So when it comes to human life, I think that you can't really have an honest conversation about those types of things unless you're willing to say that, no, the lives of Israelis are not more important than the lives of Americans. No, the lives of Jews or Christians are not more important than the lives of Muslims or Buddhists or atheists for that matter. Human life should be valued equally across the board, but that shouldn't be a stagnated thing. It should adapt and change based on the conditions. So again, if you are a psychopath and you're doing very bad things to people, yeah, then I think that your life is reduced to that below the people that you're hurting. So anyway, that's my thought. And I think it's something that I've actually considered doing a show on in general, because I was thinking about that in regard to something else. Then you asked me that question about the ICE shooting. And it's just like, in a nutshell, we should probably reconsider how we value human life, and we should reevaluate death as well, in terms of like those people that die from preventable, treatable, curable diseases that don't need to exist and don't exist in a lot of parts of the world. And it's also just disgusting. Again, in a nutshell, it's disgusting that people make it about politics. Like, very few people are concerned. Oh my God, she died. You didn't know her. There's protests in Tucson, Arizona over that. You didn't know the woman. You don't know anything about the woman. All you know is what was put on TV or what was put on social media. And then you got signs. Like, actually in West Virginia, a friend of mine sent me a picture from downtown that they had protests in West Virginia, in Morgantown, and then in Tucson. For what? You don't even, they probably can't even name the name of what's the name of the woman that was killed. And what did she do? Like, I watched the video and I thought, well, they told her to stop and she tried to drive away, but she almost hit the guy and he said, stop. And then she drove anyway. I don't know the context of that. He might have been justified in shooting her. It doesn't really matter to me because, again, the human life thing, and people only care because it's political. So it's kind of disgusting. That's my feeling.
Well, I have a couple of things here. One is, we don't know if that woman spoke English, Ryan. If she was an illegal immigrant, maybe she didn't know what the word stop meant. Maybe she didn't.
Context.
I don't know, Ryan. I don't know. Who knows? But I think that people like to put the label in front of things or behind things to get other people that are in that group in an uproar. It's like when they were like, they're killing Christians in other countries. They're killing, why is it just Christians? Where was that at? Well, that wasn't Venezuela, was it? It was some other country. Nigeria. Yes, Nigeria.
I can speak on that one. Yeah, go ahead.
Like, Christians are being slaughtered all the time, every day. I'm like, well, why is it Christians? Like, why is it just not people? Why can't we just say people? But they have to say Christians at the end of it because that gets the right all up in this this flurry of, oh, the Christians, don't mess with the Christians, they're killing Christians. It's a better headline, and we've been seeing this for a really long time. It's about the headline, it's about the title. It doesn't matter how truthful or factual it is, as long as it sounds good,
Or if you show people the actual evidence of it. Like, I could pull up the State Department. I could pull up other countries like France that have done investigations into the people in Nigeria being killed. I could pull up the Nigerian government's investigation. I could pull up books that have been written about it for decades. Well, it's been known about half a century plus. Show that to people. Don't care. It's like, so you're responding to what you read on social media or what some politician said, but when I'm showing you the actual data, it doesn't matter. I mean, some people are persuaded by it if they're rational people with open minds, but that kind of stuff doesn't go viral on social media. Like I posted that stuff, like the State Department report about even about Venezuela. There's a DEA, DOJ report. It's one of the more recent reports from 2024. And it literally, unless I don't know what I'm doing, I typed in Venezuela. Venezuela is not mentioned in the DEA, DOJ drug report. They have zero involvement in the drug trade. I mean, maybe there's a little bit that goes through there, but it's not at all like Mexico or other countries. So why does the official federal report on drug trafficking not even mention Venezuela, or mentions it? There's an executive order from Biden that mentions it in passing. So like that, shouldn't that be, that's like evidence. Same thing in Nigeria with the State Department. In fact, they've shown that it's not just Christians, it's Muslims. And in fact, Muslims are being killed at a higher rate than Christians, depending on what part of the data set you're looking at. It's pretty equal, we could say, just to be really objective, it's pretty equal. But yeah, you show that to people. No, Christians, only the Christians. They're not even American citizens. This is another thing that's confusing. To your point, it's propaganda. I think it's Israeli propaganda, but it's propaganda. A little bit of truth mixed with a little bit of lie to distract and to divide and to persuade Christians that these are your brothers and sisters and we need to save them with military operations. And it's just totally disgusting.
There's been this really weird resurgence of Christianity, and I don't necessarily want to get into it here because we really don't have the time to actually get into the full in-depth conversation. You have to wait for another time. We're going to have longer than an hour to really get to the roots of Christianity and where a lot of this even comes from. But it feels like that all you need to do, Ryan, to topple and overthrow a government, all you got to do is, they're killing Christians, they're drug traffickers, and their people hate them. So we got to go in there, topple this entire government, install our own people in there. It reminds me of that Weird Al song. Do you ever listen to Weird Al?
Oh yeah, I've listened before, of course.
Well, he has a song that's like, he did a parody of Party in the USA by Miley Cyrus, but it's a party in the CIA.
I think I've heard that before, yeah.
That's what it really seems like, though, is like, and if you don't think that the government is looking for things that are trending online as well to use that against the people to persuade them in a certain way, then they're probably the ones that are responsible for it to begin with. They're probably the ones that create the trends. I'm sure some of it is organic. Some of it has to be organic, but they have to be paying attention. And what's really popular right now is this new wave of Christianity that is sweeping over the country. And it's like this reversion and reverting back to, I mean, there's something inherently wrong when you read the Bible and you don't think that there's something inherently wrong with it. If there's something that isn't right with it within the very fiber of your being, like it should be for everybody, there should be a bunch of different questions that you have. If you just read through any book of the Bible, you should come out of that and be like, this doesn't feel like the whole story. Something's got to be left out of this. There's got to be some books missing, some paragraphs, and that is the case. I mean, as much as the Bible has been rewritten, it's just borrowed, and we've talked about this in some shows before. It's just borrowed off of much older, much more established religions, and it's gotten a great assist. But it's essentially what the government is doing right now is it's monitoring all of the stuff that's going on online, and then they repackage that thing to influence the culture, to push the culture in a certain way, in a certain narrative. That's exactly what the church did with religion. Took a little bit from over here, took a little bit from over here, and then cultivated and created their own new cult essentially.
Have you heard of Show Faith Works? Have you heard of that group, Show Faith Works?
No, I haven't.
So Show Faith Works is registered under FARA, and there's a foreign, I think it's recent, 2025. There's a recent FARA paper on this, or like the paperwork that they filed as a foreign agent. And when they registered, they submit all this information to the government. They're lobbying on behalf of a foreign government. So it's an Israeli group, and they have a whole slideshow of what their motivation is in the United States, like what they're going to be doing and lobbying for. And the whole Show Faith Works, which I think is a very small piece of a much larger unregistered movement to persuade the American public to believe and to trust and to back certain things. But this one's registered, and it shows you that they want to, it says this in bullet points, this is part of their registration. They're going to target churches. They're going to geofence Christian events. They're going to target pastors. They're going to target Christian groups and communities. And part of the way that they're going to do that, this is all in their own paperwork. I'm not even exaggerating or paraphrasing. Like, it actually says that they're going to target pastors. They're going to go after, geofence churches, etc. And one of the things that I read, which you saw this, well, I would assume you saw this during Christmas time. There's a bunch of stuff on social media about how Jesus was not a Palestinian. He was an Israeli. I thought that was weird because I've never thought Jesus was a Palestinian. Who thinks Jesus is a Palestinian? I grew up a Christian. I never talked to anybody who thought Jesus was a Palestinian. So I saw that, and it's like, no, Jesus is actually an Israeli. I was like, I don't think either one of those things could be argued. I don't think he would have been an Israeli because Israel wasn't a place, and the term doesn't mean what people say that it means etymologically. And I don't think he was a Palestinian. So what does that mean? But when I read the FAR report for Show Faith Works, their registration papers, it says precisely that. It says that they're going to try to use the image of Jesus to convince Christians that Jesus was an Israeli, Jesus was part of the Jewish movement, and that is why you should support not only, they assume you support Jesus, you're a Christian, you love Jesus, but you should by default support Israel as a state today, modern political Israel. It's crazy stuff. And that you could watch Show Faith Works in real time from their FARA registration to what's on social media. And in fact, there was just a Times of Israel report that came out, I believe it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, that showed that half of all that Israeli stuff on social media, this is just what they admit, half of it's all Israeli bots. It's just bot accounts pushing the Christian narrative. And in fact, they say that they're going to, in this document, or the registration papers, they're going to shift more into Christian propaganda. That's why when I did my show in Nigeria a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a couple of months ago now, I said it's Israeli propaganda. How's it Israeli propaganda, Ryan? It's Nigeria, it's Christians, because they're not Americans, they're Christians. Muslims are being killed too. In fact, they're being killed at a higher rate in some places. And they want you angry about this because they want you to feel like you're part of some big Christian movement so that you will hate Muslims and go to war with the Arab Muslim world yet again and waste trillions of dollars and American lives in the name of some religious holy war. And this is what the propaganda is, that they've changed from like directly Israeli propaganda to more Christian Jesus propaganda. And one other thing I'll add, I think is really critically important, Ryder, is that when people argue and debate about the Bible, I think for years I've missed a really, really critical perspective that I just kind of realized on my own. And that is, I don't really understand why we even debate the Bible. I don't get it. Like, every conversation about that is based on the assumption that everybody knows that, like, this is the book. But there's a whole bunch of other books too. Like, why aren't we debating the validity of the Bhagavad Gita? Why aren't we debating the validity of the mantras of Buddha? Oh, that's devil worship.
I'll tell you, Ryan, because they're demons.
Yeah, because they're demons. So it's all based on like this assumed and implied belief. And I don't get it because I think the Bible teaches the same thing the Bhagavad Gita teaches. It teaches the same thing the Quran teaches. I don't really care even if something is a fraudulent document. If it teaches the same thing, then it teaches the same thing. So that's something that I don't understand. And then you got to ask people the question, how exactly is it that you've probably heard me ask this before, but why are the safest, cleanest parts of the world, from Singapore to Tokyo to Seoul, Korea? I mean, Seoul, Korea has about 20% Christian population. Singapore is like 14%. Tokyo's like less than 1%. How come the cleanest, safest cities in the world are not predominantly Christian? And in fact, I mean, in the case of Japan, it's like atheists. They're not atheists, but it's not really definable by Western terms. So they don't need the Bible in Singapore to know not to murder. Or in Tokyo to not to murder people. So I don't really get why places with the Bible and with the Ten Commandments have higher murder rates than places without it. I'm confused by that. And when you ask people those questions, and it's not a slight at the Ten Commandments or the Bible, it's just a question of, why do people who don't know anything about the Bible or the Ten Commandments know not to murder people? Because they don't have the Bible, the Ten Commandments. How do they know not to lie? Because those things are not dictated by Jesus or Allah or Yahweh. It's just like, that's how you have a functioning, civil, respectful society. Anyway, I yield back my time.
You sum that up perfectly. We don't need something to tell us how to not murder, to not kill people, to not lie and cheat and steal. That should be inherently done. And if you can't explain your faith without quoting scripture, if you cannot describe God without quoting scripture, then your entire belief system is surrounded by a book of ideas and theology. You don't really have a belief in it. You know, like if you asked a Christian that goes to church twice a week to describe God, at some point they're going to quote some kind of scripture. They're going to be like, "Oh, well, it says in the 12th book of Psalm and in Daniel 2.30 that God is love." You know what I mean? Like you don't need to describe something based off of a book. And don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem with people that are Christians. I don't have a problem with people that are Muslim. I don't have a problem with any of those people. I don't have a problem with the Jewish people. They can believe whatever they want to believe. Okay? That's on them. If it helps them better their life, then more power to them. If that works for them, then great. Double thumbs up. Wasn't it like 10 years ago they did a survey in the United States, and like a lot of churches were closing and like shutting down because nobody was going to church. It was like the least popular thing within young people. It was only like the older generation of people. Like Christianity was down low, bro. So low. It was tanking hardcore. I'd have to bring up the statistics, but it was around 10 years ago where like
I
no
think it's
one
below
cared.
50%. It's below 50%, I think, for the first time ever. Like half the country doesn't go to church or something like that.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And now we're seeing like nothing but this and people know that that there's something not right about it. That's the thing that I keep coming back to. You know that there's something not right here, but you're choosing to double down on it anyway because it makes you feel better and you feel like you need to be a good person and that you need to get into heaven. And the only way that you're going to get into heaven is if you go to church every freaking week and read your Bible every single day. You be a good person because being a good person is what you're supposed to do. You don't be a good person because a book tells you to be a good person. That's it.
Yeah, and have you looked at the political division with the lack of people going to church, or rather less and less people going to church? One reason, churches have adopted that DEI rainbow trans flag motif. I saw that a lot in Tucson. A lot, in fact, most of the churches had like trans and rainbow flags flying. So that turns off a lot of people. But then on the other side, when you change administrations and you get more conservative people perceptually in power, then you just have this like, come to church and donate for Israel. Or like the pastor I sent you who's with, it's just like it's like a sketch comedy show. It's pastor with music playing, and the oil belongs to God in Venezuela and to the Lord Jesus, and it belongs to us as Americans. It's like, there's no way you're serious.
Oil of the natural and the oil of the spirit is mine, says the Lord.
So you get that. So it's just like with the idea of America in general, or just our country, where the left is concerned and obsessed with blacks, and the right is concerned and obsessed with Jews. And that's despite the fact that blacks and Jews and everybody else are just Americans. But each side has to pick some special group to wag in people's faces for why they can get away or should be able to get away with their fraud and corruption and lying and murdering and wars. Oh, look, blacks. Oh, look, Jews. I don't care. It should be about everybody, and nobody should have special preferential treatment. That's the whole point of the country. That's the whole point of our founding principles. Matter of fact, Ryder, I saw a video. I am increasingly very disliking this guy. I never trusted him anyway, but I always thought I could have a conversation with him. Now I'm quite sure he's probably a federal agent or a useful idiot. And that's Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes is pushing, I just saw another viral video. Nick Fuentes is pushing the idea. He's like, if you go to some of these Gulf states, if you go to like Dubai, you go to these places, it's just kind of accepted when you get there that you don't make fun of Islam and that you adhere to the local customs. Why can't we have that in the United States? Which I was like, yes. And then he went a step further and said, for Christianity. It's like, because this isn't Dubai. This is the United States of America, and we have a First Amendment. And I don't have to, you can't compel me, nor can you prevent me from practicing Islam or Christianity or Buddhism. The government can't stop me, and the government can't make me. That's what the First Amendment is all about. That's why you don't have to adhere to the principles of Christianity, which are universal. When you come to the U.S., you don't have to pledge allegiance to Jesus when you come to the U.S. That's utterly absurd. This is not a Muslim country. It's not a Christian country. It's a you can believe and practice whatever you want country. That's the First Amendment, and it feels like everybody's forgotten that.
It seems like they're trying to reel people back into the whole thing to gain control over everyone again. I mean, things got wild and out of really crazy in the 60s with the hippie movement, which was all controlled by the CIA. They had to put a squash on that. They killed the music of that time. They killed the most people. That was the most popular during that time. Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison, all these people that were really popular, to take them into this new era. Then they put the ice pick in that whole thing, which was the Manson tape murders, which just completely smashed the entire hippie movement. And carrying that forward, they're trying to get people back into this this state of control, because things have gone so haywire and wacky that people no longer know what to believe. And that has been the goal since the very beginning. You have this structured type of religion. If anybody ever goes outside of the lines, well, there's not a group of people that they can get behind that lets them freely talk about their ideas and freely talk about their beliefs, besides online and in places like this. Like, and there are a bunch of new age centers and stuff like that, but even new age stuff is super freaking wacky, dude. It's like, it's sometimes just as bad. So it's like, even the alternatives, it's no wonder people keep getting pulled back into the Christianity religious church movement, is because it seems like it's the only institutionalized religion that anybody can really go to in the United States. Would you agree with that?
No, not necessarily, but I know the idea of what you're getting at. there are Buddhist centers all over the U.S. and there are lots of mosques. There's Sikh temples. There's a bunch of those in Tucson. I guess it depends on where you live, the availability of that stuff. But like if you want to build, I think let me look this up real quick. Where are they building that Hindu center in the U.S.? Did you read about that?
There's actually a really nice Hindu place in West Virginia that's the Temple of Gold. It's like made out of gold. Do you know about that
Oh, in
one?
West Virginia? No, I don't know that one.
Mm.
I'm thinking there's a big temple that's being built. Oh yeah, it's in Tennessee. Yeah, well, there's actually several of them. This is one of them in Tennessee. There's several places being built, and it's totally protected by the First Amendment. I mean, there's how many? When I lived in Tucson, there was a Sikh temple, there was a mosque, there was a Buddhist temple, there was a Jewish center that was like the size of 4 city blocks with a giant menorah that lit up the street, and there were a bunch of churches with rainbow flags hanging off of them. So that's the whole point of the United States. Like we can just freely worship whatever we want to worship. You want to worship an idol, worship an idol. You don't want to worship anything, you don't want to worship anything. That's fine. Christianity overall, I think, it's more accepted because it's more familiar. But this is the problem, I think, with maybe not a problem, but it's part of the issue of the First Amendment is that you can only have a population that is like a civil population where we can respect and appreciate other people. You can only have that if the population is taught to respect other people. And we're not taught that. We're taught the Muslims are heathens, or the Christians are heathens, or the Jews are heathens, or the Buddhists are heathens. And it's like most of them are teaching the same exact thing. And even if they weren't, you have the right to go to any of these places and you can believe whatever you want to believe. And when we get into the territory that you've probably seen, Ryder, I know my audience has, you get to the territory of like, we got to ban Islam. We got to ban the Quran. And you know what I say? I got physical copies of them, so I'm good. I'm not giving those physical copies up. I got digital copies too. I'm not giving them up. I say, you know what? Do it. I say ban the Quran. I say ban Islam. Because I'm going to sit back and I'm going to watch in just joy and glee that the next step will be the Bible's banned, Christianity's banned. So keep pushing for the banning of Islam and Qurans because you're going to get the Bible banned too. It's already on the chopping block. In fact, if anything gets banned first, it will be the Bible under the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. The Bible's already considered a hateful document. And that's not the Muslims doing that. So I guess in a nutshell, what I'm getting at here in response to what you said is a lot of this is because of true ignorance, like genuinely profound ignorance, where we go back to the life again. We don't value life equally. We see people as being less than us, or if not less, just I guess it's implied by the fact that we might think that we're superior. Oh, we believe in the superior religion, or we believe in the superior this. That's why America doesn't work right now, because we're not abiding by universal maxims or the founding principles. We're actually doing the very opposite of all those things. And that's why things seem the way that they seem to be going so poorly. And when you start arguing, oh, well, we should just make it mandatory that you have to pledge allegiance to Jesus at the airports, and we should make it mandatory that Qurans have to be, it's outlawed, it's illegal. Well, okay. It's kind of ironic too, because if you went to somewhere like Syria, or like if you went to Damascus before the U.S. liberated it, wink, wink, it was one of the most accepting religious places in the world. In fact, and I know this because I talked to several people that were from Syria. And I knew a girl from Damascus, from the city. And she said that it was similar to the United States. In fact, it might have been more free than the United States, because she said, the persecution that Muslims get in the U.S., there's not that persecution for Christians in Damascus. So that's not universal throughout the Middle East, but like Iran, they have Christmas there. They have subways dedicated to the Virgin Mary. It's very, very weird when you're told the opposite of all those things, and most of these countries actually welcome Christians and welcome Christianity. And even if they're Muslim countries, which you could even, last thing, you could even argue like, okay, if America is mostly made of Christians, which it is, it's like 60-something% Christian, that's fine. But that doesn't negate the fact that everybody can also practice and believe whatever they want to practice and believe. And that is true intolerance. It's true intolerance. Like with the thing with J.D. Vance's wife. I can't stand J.D. Vance. I think he's a gross human being. I think he's a disgusting person. I think he's a sellout. I think he's a fraud. He might even be filled with nanites. I'm joking about that. But with his relationship with Peter Thiel, I'm not sure what they've done to him. Again, I'm joking about the nanites. But when I look at his wife, Usha Vance, I actually think she's just like a decent looking woman. And I don't have an issue with her because she's Hindu. And yet the Christian conservative people became exactly what the liberal wackos accused them of. Intolerant racists. Great. You've now fulfilled that exact same thing with Vivek Ramaswamy. I don't like him either. Smart guy, but I don't like him either. He's a street pooper. No, actually, he's probably one of the most articulate politicians who has spoken on a stage nationally in decades. One of the most articulate. He's not a street pooper. And neither is Usha Vance. She's a very normal-looking, mildly, decently attractive woman who is just like she's not, quote, white. So the people, both sides have turned each other into the things that they claim to not be. And to me, that is, I mean, Trump is a whole nother show. That to me it's indicative of there is a psychological methodology being employed to do that. I don't think that happens. Maybe some of the ignorant, like natural ignorance, yes, but I think a lot of that is media, social media, it's movies, it's TV shows. I mean, I'll give you one last example. Julian Assange said it probably best. He said and this was a long time ago, I think he said this. He said the reason that there's so much hatred for Iran in the United States is because there's a bunch of writers in Hollywood who are Israeli and they hate Iran and they want the U.S. to go to war with Iran, and they've been writing movies and TV shows and putting this into everything that Iran is the enemy. And that's what people know. That's because the American public doesn't know anything about Iran except what they're told. When you tell people they have Christian subway stations, that's fake news. No, it's real. They don't believe in Jesus there. Actually, they do. In fact, considering that place, other than the people that practice some of the older Persian religions, considering that place is, I think, per capita, it's more Muslim than the U.S. is Christian, they probably have more people that believe in Jesus in Iran, if you factor the population, than in the United States. So anyway, I might be digressing from the point, but I think that all of this is important to observe.
As far as J.D. Vance and his military contractor, I'm sure you know about that, in the Peter Thiel connection in Israel Industries, and how he made all of these surveillance drones. This company was apparently responsible for making all of these surveillance drones, and then now the DoD and the government is buying these surveillance AI facial recognition drones off of J.D. Vance's company.
I would not be surprised if they install him as president.
Did you do a show on that? Did you know about that?
I haven't done a full show on that, but I think I referenced it on my Palantir show.
Yeah.
One of my Palantir shows. Yeah, he is a technocrat, and he is what they're calling for. I mean, even Nick Fuentes is calling for something similar. They want like a Christian monarchy, or they want the techno monarchy of Peter Thiel, and J.D. Vance is he's the brainchild of a bunch of different corporations and psychopaths. And that's how he got to start too. That's how he got to start. He got to start with those people like Peter Thiel. So he fighting over his wife being a Hindu, but not the fact that he got his start with Peter Thiel, the vampire antichrist, so-called Christian. That's the kind of thing we've been talking about throughout the whole show. It's silly. It's stupid.
Who thought that RFK was going to be the least controversial person in this entire administration? It's unbelievable. We thought that he was going to go in there and whip up all this stuff, and it kind of seemed like it in the very beginning, because you remember whenever they were doing his like inaugural thing into the health administrator, and he was in front of Bernie Sanders, and he was doing this whole thing, and then he called out Bernie Sanders for taking money from millions of dollars from all of these big pharmaceutical companies and everything. That's how we thought it was going to go, but then it's just turned into a complete and total shit show. Is no other better way to put it.
Everything's been rebranded, Ryder. So Nick Shirley's helping to well, Elon Musk first did. Now he's helping Nick Shirley to continue to rebrand X as an independent platform as they sign contracts with foreign countries to censor X and to overflow it with bots. They've rebranded the New World Order as Make America Great, which has no meaning. They've rebranded the idea of the Great Reset as, or rather, I should say, they've rebranded the Great Financial Reset as the Great Reset, or vice versa. And now it's being rebranded as we're going to make America great, which still has no meaning. And they've rebranded Conspiracy Land. People that might have questions and opinions and provide good speaking platforms for people to get new ideas out there on the public airwaves. And now they've been reduced to, I mean, my God, I used to listen to Alex Jones just for entertainment, just to get that in the background. And now, like when he was talking about eating his neighbor's ass, that was a funny bit. Now it's like Alex Jones is literally on his show saying, we got to get the big companies into Venezuela to rebuild. It's like, that's literally the economic hitman model that you used to expose on your show. Now you're literally promoting the economic hitman model. Because I think people, well, in his case, I think he's compromised by those lawsuits that were used against him. But I think overall, what you're looking at is that people are too afraid to admit that they were wrong about Trump and about all of that stuff. Like, my God, I don't know if you saw this, Ryder, but the Department of Labor, let me double check to make sure that's what it was. Yeah, U.S. Department of Labor. They literally, I'm using that word very deliberately, they literally just posted on social media this week, trust the plan. So it turns out that Clyde Lewis and I did a show in 2015-16 about QAnon being fake, not real. Turns out, even though we were called crazy, that's exactly what it was, fake. And it was used to identify the so-called patriots, discredit the movement, rebrand everything. And now you get all the things that people like David Icke used to say, oh, he's crazy. How could you do that? Well, now they're going to take your car away and you're not going to be able to drive. Well, we're slowly doing that with electric cars and 15-minute cities. That's how we get there. And who's running? Elon Musk, but he's a patriot. So it's okay. And Trump's, we pulled out of the UN, but he's giving talks. I think he's giving a talk at Davos relatively soon. Oh, they can't buy single family homes, these big companies. Nothing about shell companies doing that, or nothing about that we'll just blow up countries and we'll take all possession of all the land and we'll build hotels and resorts. It's just one hypocritical, stupid thing after another. And too many people are unwilling to admit that they were conned. And I actually think it's a brilliant and genius conspiracy, quite frankly. We'll put it that way. I think what's happening is they have used all of this, and by they I mean big companies, I mean foreign countries, I mean the blackmailers, etc. They have used this rebranding. They have used the Trump image. They have used all of this to undermine the last bit of trust and faith in the American system. And the evidence of that is in the fact of the comeback story of Trump. He's going to do it all. It's going to get better. We're going to make changes. He knows what he's doing this time, etc. And then he just did exactly what everybody else has always done. They don't release files. They lie about files, then don't release them, then lie about releasing them, and then redact things, and it's all confusing. And then we bomb other countries and we promote regime change, and social media is run by a bunch of bots now from the conservatives and from Israel. That, by the way, that's a factual thing. The White House has a bot team running for Trump where they criticize if someone says, well, wait a minute, hold on a second. I don't think this makes any sense. Suddenly Trump bots pop up and they tell you why you're an un-American loser and you might as well go to a communist country. So it's the same exact model, except I think it's been used to undermine the last bit of faith in the system because guess what? I really frankly think no one is ever going to trust voting again. There was a little bit of it left, but no one's ever going to trust the let's put America first people again. You know who they're going to trust? They're going to trust people like Mamdani, who's a lying psychopath who probably works for the Mossad, but he says things that sound a lot better than let's just make America great. He just says things that are total nonsense like, we're going to give you free buses. And then he gets in office and the first thing he does, bus fare goes through the roof. So that's what you're going to get. You want to fight communism? You want to fight socialism? You don't fight it by supporting these kinds of policies and systems. In fact, what you're going to get out of that is you're going to get a system that is, they want a techno-monarchy. You're going to get a system very close to that. So anyway, I think that's what it's all about, undermining the last bit of faith in the system.
I think that we need to elect J.D. Vance. By the way, this Paul E. Vallely guy that we talked about in the very beginning was also a QAnon person. Down here in his bio says QAnon. Vallely is a supporter of QAnon, which is described as a white hat operation.
Oh, yeah.
Military intelligence officers that is tied to the information of group or military intelligence specialists, over 800 people that advise the president. He has praised Q as a legitimate source that releases real intelligence, fact-based intelligence to the public. In 2020, he was also one of the 235 senior military leaders backing Donald Trump for re-election. So there you go. You got the Paul E. Vallely here, QAnon supporter. So I thought I would throw that in there since you mentioned a little Q.
Yeah, Q has been nonsense from the beginning. And look how well it's worked to undermine real things. It's what its intention, its purpose was from the beginning. I think that's what the Trump administration's been used for too, to undermine, like as I said, the last bit of faith in the system. And then we'll slowly replace all the things we agree are corrupt with things that are far worse, like J.D. Vance and Peter Thiel's technocracy. That's okay, though. Elon Musk is a good guy. He votes Republican now, so if he wants a new world order, that's okay.
We will. I think that I have to go back and revisit my J.D. Vance killing the Pope.
Oh,
video.
God.
I did an entire show on it.
So stupid. Have you I know you've seen the X-Files, but have you ever seen the Dreamland episode, the 2-part Dreamland episode? Where Mulder and the Area 51 guy switch bodies?
That sounds familiar, but I couldn't recall any of it.
It's such a good episode, 2-part episode, because the Area 51 guy switches bodies with Mulder, and they go meet with I think I've told you this before, they go meet with the lone gunman with Scully, and they don't at first believe that it's not Mulder because it looks like him, but it's got this other guy's personality. And he tells him, he's like, I can't believe you published this conspiracy stuff in your newspapers. He's like, I make all this stuff up. You guys just publish the stuff that I make up. I made this up while I was on the toilet. Yeah. That's what a lot of this QAnon stuff is. And it undermines real things. Like they're not, like you've probably seen those real quickly. You've seen those stories about, Kash Patel, and he'll say, he's got those giant eyes. We were able to get in there and save 100 kids in one of these rings. It's like, well, that's great, Cash, but how about the Epstein thing? How about that? That's a lot bigger than 100 kids. But no, they give you a little crumb. Oh, here's a little bit. And then the big one, that just gets kind of ignored or forgotten about. And that's also meant to, while they've been telling us that there's nothing there, but here's a real one. Here's a real network. Some low-level people that are involved in like trading pictures online. The big people don't get persecuted, prosecuted, arrested, investigated, anything. They just get to go along with their, like Bongino. Did you see that he's like, I want to go buy my podcast, and it's so disgusting what I saw in the government. So it's like, hold on a second. This sums it all up, Ryder. So Dan Bongino, who was actually in a position of power and could do something about it, decided to not do anything, leave, get on a podcast, and then tell people it was just really bad. And I'm going to change it now with my now that I know we're going to change things on my podcast. It's like, why didn't you do something when you were in the government? Now you're going to do something on the podcast? It's so stupid. It's so stupid. I have no hope.
That's where the minds of the people are. So like that Mr. Beast video that we did with the Rockefeller Foundation. We got to meet the
Yeah.
people where they are. We got to meet the kids where they are, Ryan. And where are the kids, Ryan? The kids are online.
Yep, you're right. That's a good point. Meet people where they are online. Just convince people that it's all okay. Trust the plan. I mean, my God, how long do you have to trust the plan? It's been, what, 12 years? 11, 12 years? How long do you got to trust the plan?
Not that long. 8, I think. Almost 8.
It's been at least 8 years, because it was like 2016, right? So maybe like 8, 9 years, something like that. But yeah, that's a long time to trust the plan. I mean, people are going to start retiring still trusting the plan. It's very stupid. Very stupid.
I'll trust the plan to the day I die, Ryan. None you're going to tell me not to trust the plan. I'll trust the plan if I want to trust the plan.
I don't even know what that means. Let me ask you a question real quick before we wrap up. What is this black pill thing? People keep accusing me of being a black pillar. I don't even know what it means. What does it mean?
It means that you basically have no hope and that everything is fake and stupid and nothing's real and none of it really matters and we're going to get a new world order regardless and everything's going to be surveillance and it's pretty much like a Debbie Downer, no hope type of person. But I don't see you as that. I see you as a realist. Like you look at things, you analyze them, and then you come up with your best conclusion based on the information that you have. And everything that we get is so backwards. So it's like, probably throwing in some comedy would be like, they would never call you a black pillar then because then you make jokes. You know what I mean? You're a jokester. Tim
Yeah.
Doe is a black pillar, you know what I mean? But he's funny. So then it doesn't really matter, at that point. He's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, kind of. I guess I get that. I've had people give me different definitions. Those things are so silly to me because like I'll say, I don't really trust this. Oh, so you're one of those black pillars. I don't know. I don't know what that means. It's like you're speaking another language. If you want to have a discussion, we'll discuss the details. Like it's just another way to label somebody and not actually have to discuss the issue at hand or to debate something. It's just like calling someone a truther or a libtard or they got Trump derangement syndrome. I just think all those things are stupid. None of it gets us anywhere. None of it gets us to a better understanding of anything.
I would agree with that. Absolutely. And Ryan, thanks so much for coming on, brother. Really appreciate it. Always fun having you on. We're going to do it again. Hopefully we'll get that Super Bowl show in like we did last year, the day right after, because I normally do these on Mondays.
Oh yeah, I was wondering. I might actually be hosting. I don't know if I'm going to be hosting Ground Zero for the Super Bowl show if Clyde's not back. So I might have to do triple duty for that. My show, your show, and Ground Zero. But I look forward to it.
We got to make the tradition because
I have a prediction.
Oh yeah, okay. Let's hear it.
Yeah, one of the NFL teams is going to win the Super Bowl. That's my prediction.
You heard it here first, folks. You heard it here on Raised by Giants. Prediction from Brian Gable. We'll check it out in about a month and a half.
And they will have colors. Their logo will have colors.
But what will those colors signify? Will the colors tell us who's going to win?
It'll signify Illuminati confirmed. It's really getting to the point where I've been drinking this tea on air here. I got this tea, It's a black soybean tea. It's getting to the point now where if I were to drink this on my show and not put it in a cup, people would look at the bottle and be like, what kind of Illuminati symbols are those? So they're not Illuminati symbols. It's Chinese script for black tea. And it's like that with my book collection. You know, people look at, oh, that's an Illuminati book right there. No, that's just a Freemasonic Bible. People have really, I think, been, and it's the QAnon stuff, Ryder. I think people have been they don't trust anything, understandably. And then they've been given this hope of like, we're going to get the truth. And that's just another psych job. It's just another psych op.
You know what?
Just
I
people
think
mad.
I think that it would be better if people would read the Freemasonic Bible. Just in the introduction
Good
alone
Bible.
to the Freemasonic Bible explains more of the Bible than the Bible does.
Yeah, actually, the Freemasonic Bible, it has a description of what all the different symbols mean in Freemasonry. And here's a hint. None of them are about the Illuminati. I've read it.
Me too. Well, I've read part of it. I read a lot of it. Very interesting.
Yes, it is. I would recommend reading as many books as you can get your hands on. Read skim through it. The Bhagavad Gita is huge, but read the Bhagavad Gita. I don't know. Read the Quran. I wouldn't read that heathen document. Well, then how do you know what's in it? I just know. God told me. I know. God said it. God said it.
'Cause it's full of demons and they work for the globalist cabal.
Yeah.
You're a globalist agent.
Globalist agent has turned into like deep state, hasn't it? And like deep state is transforming into something else now. It's kind of all, there's like so many rebranding things happening, it feels like.
You're a globalist agent working for the intel community, Ryan. Please.
But I know that somebody's going to win.
Globalist agent on this show.
But I know that someone's going to win the Super Bowl this year. That's the prediction.
And there's going to be a halftime performance. And the very next day, the entire internet will be filled full of Super Bowl decodes. That I can promise you. And my channel, your channel, and Ground Zero will be one of them.
Super Bowl decodes. And, you know, another thing about that is that when you look at sports, yeah, I've never paid attention to football really at all in my adult life. And people, you know, they do those zoom in videos and, oh yeah, you can tell here that he didn't know if he could score, if he was allowed to score a touchdown or this or that. And like 99% of that's implied. Some of it, I'd imagine that it's pretty rigged and there's a lot of gambling and a lot of money invested in all that stuff. But I don't think everything is completely rigged. If it was that obviously rigged, then I'm pretty sure it would have been exposed a lot longer ago and not just recently when you got X. There's a lot of genuine paranoia. There's a lot of that. A lot of genuine paranoia. A lot of genuine schizophrenia because the schizophrenics now they're allowed to talk. They got microphones and they can say whatever they want to say.
Like you're a globalist agent. Globalist agent. Like
Just won't
JD
say
Vance,
that.
globalist agent. You're a globalist agent. You're infested by demons. You're demonic. You're possessed.
You know
You're
what?
anti-Israel.
You know what? I think I told you that story. Somebody was talking about on a show I called into. They were talking about the how Jesus can dispel the name of demons, or not the name of demons. The name of Jesus can dispel evil, exorcise demons. And I said, well, that's interesting because in Arab nations, Arab cultures, they use Allah, and that also gets rid of the jinn. How do you explain that? I don't know. I got Christ. Yeah, well, okay, you got Christ. That's cool. But like they use a different word and it also works because Allah means the same thing as Jesus. Actually, Allah is closer to God than Jesus because Jesus is a derivative of Yeshua and Allah is the direct name for God. Well, Allah's a demon. Well, then why does the name Allah get rid of the jinn? It's very, very frustrating, Ryder.
It is very frustrating, and we could probably talk about this for another 2 or 3 hours. Some of our phone conversations go on for a long time, and I wish some of those would be recorded because they're freaking incredible. But really appreciate this chilled and laid back, relaxed episode with you, brother. I'm looking forward to the Super Bowl show. Hopefully, we can make that, and we're going to make that a tradition from here forward. Since we did it last year and it was highly successful last year, because we both stayed up, watched it, and did all of our analysis on it late that night, and woke up the next morning and did all the shows on it. Can you let people know where they can find you online?
Yep, pretty simple. tstradio.info, tstradio.info, or type in TST Radio on pretty much any radio podcast player, Spotify, Apple, etc. All my shows, subscription archive, my books, etc. It's all there. Pretty simple, tstradio.info.
Thanks so much. The links to Ryan's information is in the description of this video. And for everyone else, all of my information is also in the description. Please be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon as well for notifications. And we'll see you guys next time.